Hey, are you here? Are you here? I'm sorry, I gotta ask, even though I already know you are here, plugged in to episode number 1056 of the Paul Leslie Hour. So, the question everybody asks is, what podcast does Paul listen to? I think he likes We Think It's Funny. Yeah, it's a comedy podcast hosted by Mark Schiff and Daniel Lobell. Mark and Danny find the funny in everything, and they're right here to tickle your funny bone and entertain you. And folks, keep in mind that the Paul Leslie Hour is made possible by viewers and listeners like you. So give to yourself and to others the gift of stories. Just go visit thepaulleslie.com/support. But for now, let's bring in Mark and Danny. We think it's funny.
Well, folks, I listen to a lot of podcasts, but there is one podcast that I always return to faithfully, and I'm talking about We Think It's Funny, hosted by Lobell and Schiff. They have both been guests on this show separately, and now they're in their fourth season of We Think It's Funny, and I have the great pleasure of welcoming them simultaneously. So Danny and Mark, I will not call you sir from the last episode. Thanks so much for making time to talk to me.
Thank you, Paul. We're both surprised that your podcast has lasted this long. So this was, I bet Danny $200, and I owe you money, Danny.
We're surprised our podcast has lasted this long too, to be fair.
I'm surprised I've lasted this long. Trust me. Well, thank you, Paul. It's been a while.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, what was the impetus? Why does this show exist? We Think It's Funny. What's the purpose, the reason?
Well, I'll let Mark take that because he's the one who's always pushing the show.
Yeah. I didn't want to do the show, and I still don't want to do it. I've tried to get out of this a number of times, and the God's honest truth. I've called Danny and said, listen, I'm done. I cannot do any more episodes of this. And somehow he comes up with some nonsense that pulls me back in. And but I'm at the verge of quitting again.
Yeah, every 2 days I have to talk him back into the show.
But it's the same with my marriage, my children. I don't want to see them either anymore.
Yeah.
So just one of those things. But Danny has a way of convincing you that it's the right thing to do, that this podcast of ours will explode one day if we just have the right guest on.
Yeah.
So far, it hasn't happened.
I think, by 1,000 guests, we'll probably get that person.
Yeah, we will.
I see. Well, on that note, who could you imagine, if you used your imagination, who would that person be? Like, okay, you get to text Mark and you say, you're never going to believe this. You won't believe who we booked. This could be what pushes us over the edge. Who would that be?
Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah. If she was arm wrestling Trump. If Nancy Pelosi, we would set up a match where the two of them are arm wrestling.
I think that would get hits.
And Biden is the referee. This would get hits.
Yeah.
But okay, so what guests? So we've had on some very famous people, and listen, we're doing okay. We're doing good. We're growing like vegetables slowly.
Mm-hmm.
You ever see broccoli grow? It's
That's actually one of Mark's hobbies. He loves watching.
I love watching corn grow.
Because he's a vegan and he just licks his lips and watches for months.
But who do we have to have on that would really? I think these days, just having a regular guest, you have to have somebody that's done something like if the guys came back, like if that couple came back from the moon or wherever they are. They've been
the people have been stuck at the space station.
If we could get them first.
The first interview with them.
Yeah, that would be good.
Okay. I don't know.
Do you think those two have had sex, by the way? They've been stuck up duty.
Well, what do you think? It's on the moon? Do you think that's?
They're not a married couple. I think they both are married, but they've been locked.
They're always in the moonlight in space, so it's very romantic, probably in space. But it's probably very hard logistically because they're floating all the time. So it might be
Knowing what
hard
men are
to do
capable
that.
of, he would figure out a way.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, are they both single or
No, I think he got married.
they're married to each
And an
other?
interesting thing is, I don't hear their wives or husbands complaining that their spouses aren't home.
No. You know, from the honeymooners when you go to the moon, Alice, somebody actually
If
sent
you
them.
were stuck in space,
Yeah.
how long until your wife would stop complaining that he's not home?
Oh, I don't know. I think a week.
Oh,
I think about a
you
week.
really,
I think for a week she would have a hard time adjusting, and then she'd be like, "Okay, I don't need him anymore."
yeah.
I think that would be it.
So Paul, it's like a career. There's no one thing that pushes you over,
Right.
but it's a combination of many different events and people you would have on a show.
But when I did Modern Day Philosophers, my old podcast, there were two guests that really made a big impact. To be fair, we were doing like kind of moderate numbers, like, and then I had Lewis Black on, and we talked about psychics, and it turns out he believes in he doesn't believe in anything, but he believes in psychics.
Hmm.
And that was like, that got a lot of press. The story got picked up, and then another place wrote about it, and they say Lewis Black talks about how he believes in psychics, and that press kind of got a lot of people interested. They tuned into the podcast. They said, "Oh, I like this. Let me go back and listen to the library," and that kind of boosted me up to a whole nother level with the podcast.
Yeah.
And then I kind of grew, slowly like a vegetable, like Mark said, for a while. And then I had Fred Armisen on, and that exploded it. So it does actually, there are times when you have a certain guest on, and it's not just who they are, but it's like what they say, and how, you have to, a lot of things have to line up. You get somebody hears it, they write about it, and it can really like do things for you. I'm sure there's other ways to grow a podcast, but that's my experience was those two guests over a course of years made the show big. And then I quit. I fired myself off the show, but I'm not sure necessarily that it's a certain person, but it could be a certain conversation. It could be
Right.
Well, the last time we were talking, Danny, we talked about what it would be like if you got Woody Allen as a guest. And I have to say, I think he would fit in very well. So how do we do that? How do we get Woody Allen booked on We Think It's Funny?
now that would be my dream. If I could have one person
Did you
on,
try?
I tried, but my connection to Woody, I don't have the number anymore. And then I called somebody else and they didn't have a number. So I don't know. I'm kind of stuck. I was friendly with Woody for a long time when I was younger, and I just don't have a way to get to him. He doesn't do jazz anymore. The band is disbanded. I wouldn't to him or how to reach him.
Right.
Right.
You interviewed him, didn't you?
I did indeed.
How did that happen?
I don't believe in this idea that, oh, if you wish something bad enough, it'll happen. But I just knew that he was going to come on. I just knew it. I asked the publicist. I felt a little bit, okay, he's way out of my league. He's so big. But I just knew he was going to say yes. And then they called me back and they said, yeah, Woody will talk to you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you're lucky. I had an experience with him where he talked to me.
Yeah.
I told you this with Gilbert Gottfried.
Yeah, I know, but I thought you were.
I bumped into him in the
it.
street once. I said, "Listen, I was with Gilbert Gottfried, the great comedian. Said we'd like to talk to you. Have a conversation about comedy." And he said yes. When I told his manager Jack Rollins that Woody met with us, he could not believe it. He said, "I've never heard Woody doing anything like that. You guys must have really something." He was touched by something about you guys.
Yeah. He was very, very kind to me. He would always take care of my drinks. And if I wanted to eat something at the Carlisle, he always said, put it on his tab. When my mom wanted to come for her birthday, he gave us the front row table and he sent over a bottle of wine and everything. I mean, he was always incredibly generous and kind to me.
What was he doing at the Carlisle? Playing clarinet?
Yeah, he was playing clarinet with his jazz
I saw him
band.
at Michael's pub.
Yeah, that was before the Carlisle days.
Yeah. Well, he certainly wasn't buying me any food or drinks. I thought that Woody thought I was an idiot. And then he told Eddie Davis with the band, he said, I'm really glad that guy is doing what he's doing.
Oh,
So,
that's nice. Eddie passed away a few years ago.
yeah,
Sad.
yeah, God rest his
He
soul.
would have been another way for me to reach out to Woody, but I can't do that anymore.
Well, I'm going to do what I can to help you guys with that on that front. Now,
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
my pleasure, my pleasure. Hypothetically speaking, when Trump was making the rounds and he was just doing podcast after podcast, I was wondering, is he gonna get his way over to We Think It's Funny? Would you all have done that?
Of course, I would have. Would you have? Mark is out.
No, I'm thinking about the
Yeah.
question. Yeah, I think I would have done it.
Why not?
Yeah.
I would do it. Yeah. And he can come on next week if he wants.
Yeah. Seinfeld spent some time with him not too, recently.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yes,
Very-
it is.
Gary went to his house for dinner and Woody came to his house.
Trump?
No, Woody
Oh, Woody.
came to Jerry's house.
Oh, okay.
They're friends now.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I thought we had a huge scoop here. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
No,
that's not
not
Donald
Trump. No, not. No, I don't think that's going to happen for a while. At least another 6 elections.
Yeah.
So this question is for Mark.
Yes, I'm with you.
What is the best thing about having Danny Lobell as a co-host?
The best thing about Danny having Danny as a co-host, that's actually easy, and I'm not going to be funny about it. Danny is a terrific conversationalist, and the two of us meld together very nicely. We're not afraid to say things to each other. He's got a beautiful setup here. He's a total professional, and he does a yeoman's job when it comes to cutting the videos, which I have nothing to do with. I will check them off the boxes and put them on my sites, but he does a tremendous amount of work, and I just have to show up and help book the acts and do some reading and stuff like that. So he's easy, and he's on time. He's
Thank
on
you.
time.
Yeah.
I cannot work with people that are late.
I'm early.
Yeah. Can't work with people that are late.
Well, you know where this is going. This is for Danny. What is the best thing about having Mark Schiff as a co-host?
That one's tough.
I knew it would be.
Yeah. I'd say the oil back massages are pretty good.
Very good.
I'll tell you the truth. I love Mark. I admire him. I respect and look up to Mark, and not just comedically, but in life. I find a lot of inspiration because Mark has achieved a lot of milestones that I have yet to reach. I love, even today we had his friend of 50 years on, a very funny guy, Jimmy Brogan. And we were talking about a lot of life stuff that Mark has gone through and benchmarks. I'll always listen pretty carefully because I think Mark did it right. I've been in comedy for 20 years and I observed a lot of comedians that I've looked up to and what their life looks like. And I don't fault them for wanting what they want, but it's not necessarily what I want. When I met Mark, I said, hey, this guy's not only hilarious, but he's a great role model.
Thank you.
So I very much, I've sought advice from Mark many times way before the podcast ever started. He's at one point attempted to save my life. It didn't work, but he tried with all his heart. He really helped me.
Well, you're still alive.
I'm still alive, but I mean,
Barely.
yeah, but I mean, I obviously have an issue with my weight, and most people would take no interest in that. And Mark took too much interest in it, and I say that in a good way because he's got such a big heart, and I never forget that kind of thing. And I mean, I have a lot to say. I sound like I'm rambling on, but it's a big question because and he's so funny. I never have to worry. Like if I don't have anything to say on something, there's that split second where you might be trying to think of something. He's got it. There's no dead air. There's no time. Like if I hesitate on anything, Mark is always there with something way funnier than I would have even thought of. So
Thank you, Danny.
yeah.
I did try to help Danny with his weight, and he's working on himself. But before
Yeah.
each show,
Yeah.
Danny would eat a entire goat. It was unbelievable to watch this. It took 5 hours.
Right.
There was nothing left but a paw.
Right. It was a feat, and I would do it mostly to impress Mark
Yeah.
because he's been vegan for so long that he lived vicariously through my goat meat eating
Phase.
phase.
It
Yeah.
was a phase.
So yeah.
He's moving on to walrus. Entire walrus.
Well,
It's
that
good
answers the
because
question I had.
green onions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The garlic. Yes, sir.
I was going to ask if you had any pre-show ritual.
We look at
Yeah.
news a lot before the show.
And we meet about a half hour before the taping, and we talk about the guest and work out a couple of the questions. Nothing really. We fly. We have a guest coming on next week. I read her book. Carol Leifer's coming on. So she wrote a book on how to make the perfect speech. So we do some prep work, and we had a guest on today, Dr. Jessica, and what we needed to do was she has her own podcast called Your Children Are Normal. We watch some of her podcasts. So we do preparation. With you, we didn't do anything.
No.
We
Right.
didn't feel we had to. Because
Well,
Because Mark
That's
said
correct.
this is the last episode of your
Yeah.
show.
this will put the nail in your coffin.
Yeah. He said he thought he was going to sink you when you had him on, and that didn't work. And then he said, okay, I'll send Danny over to the show. That'll sink him. And that didn't work. But he said, now
Nothing
the
sinks
two of
Mr.
us
Leslie.
together.
This guy is persistent as a heat rash.
Yeah.
well, I have to say, and you're going to think, oh, he's just saying that. If there's an interview that I go back to in my mind again and again and again, it's the Mark Schiff one. First of all, it was exactly it was 20 years on the day from my first radio broadcast. But there are lessons that I've gotten, and there's lessons I'm still learning from that. And that's just the truth. Now, you all have only had one returning guest so far on, as far as I can remember. You had Mash on twice.
Yes.
That's right.
Is the goal to get as many different people, or is it intentional, or
No, after the first when we had, and she showered with us, we figured we got to try to have her on again.
Yeah.
And
Mark,
sure enough,
Mark says that a podcast crew that showers together stays together.
stays together.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's how he gets me to do it.
She was a unique guest. She dressed unique. She had a great thing, great Israeli personality.
My wife said about I'm trying to remember, I can't remember the other person, but she said and some other guest brought out the funniest. Oh, Brian Regan were the two guests that brought out the funniest in Mark and I. And my wife was the one who suggested you should have back. And I didn't do anything on her suggestion. And then a month or two later, reached out to me and said, I'd really like to come back. And I had it in my mind already. My wife said, you should have her back. And I thought, okay, I asked Mark and he said, yeah, we should have her back. And that's how that happened.
Danny and I had a guest about 2 weeks ago, Luz.
Yeah.
And we both almost fell off our chairs.
Yeah.
We had a laugh-a-thon. Something happened that set us both off. She got in on it.
Yeah.
If you get a chance, look at the episode.
Did you hear that one, Luz Pazos?
I did. Absolutely.
We're talking about the Talmud. By the way, Danny and I, another thing we like to do is we talk Torah, which is the Jewish Bible, because
Right.
And tonight we're going to take a Talmud class together.
This will be a first. This will be a first because Mark sold me the Talmud, and then he got invited to this class, but he didn't have any Talmud to bring with him.
I felt so bad. The guy that called me and said, Mark, grab one of your Talmuds and come to the class tonight.
Yeah.
I didn't have the heart to tell him. I sold the whole collection.
So then Mark only invited me to this class because I have the Talmud and he didn't want to pay to rent it from me.
Renting a Talmud is not like renting bowling shoes. This is a whole. These are actually cleaner because these have never been opened.
Yeah.
There's no such thing
between the two of us. There's not one crease in a page.
You ever notice? You ever rent bowling shoes? There's never a new pair. They never give you. You're never the first person to wear the bowling shoes.
That's a good point.
Yeah. What if they buy them used?
But there's only like one time in history when bowling shoes were ever made.
That's it. And then they bowling alley to bowling alley passes them around.
Do you think people ever steal the bowling shoes? They're like, my shoes stink. I'd rather keep these.
Rich Scheidner used to wear bowling shoes on stage. I don't know where he got them.
He probably stole them. There's nowhere to. You can't buy bowling shoes. There's only one way to get them.
You can get them on eBay, probably. But eBay didn't exist when he was on stage with bowling shoes. He ran out of the bowling alley one day.
There's your scoop, Paul Leslie. Rich Scheidner.
He's a bowling shoe thief. He also had a bowling shirt.
I want to get him on the show. We got to get Rich on the show.
Yeah, we do. I talk to him periodically. He's fun. I don't know how often he comes to. He was just here recently.
Well, we missed him.
Yeah.
Hey, here it is in the middle of this episode, the Paul Leslie Hour. We're going to take just a quick moment to ask a favor. Won't you subscribe to Paul's YouTube channel? I'm sure if you do, you will be one happy person. And above all else, following Paul on X, formerly known as Twitter, at the Paul Leslie. And remember to say hi to Paul. Now, back to the show.
You know, I've listened to this show so much that I'll tell you, I had a dream. And this was part of the inspiration why I decided, you know what, I need to reach out and try to interview them both at the same time. I had this dream that I was asking the both of you about the Ten Commandments, not the movie.
How'd it go in the dream?
It's weird. What'd you say, Mark?
I said to Danny, you're going to hell. That's how it went. One of us didn't end up so good.
Mark,
I got a joke for you, by the way, about that.
Let's hear it.
So this guy says to his rabbi, he goes, Rabbi, I got some tremendous news. My wife and I have decided we've been keeping the 10 Commandments. She keeps 5 of them, and I keep 5 of them. There you go.
Mark only keeps 2 of them.
Yeah. And adultery is still in.
Yeah, he always when he became religious, he got the rabbi to agree that he could keep adultery.
Yeah.
He has it in writing.
That would really be to be less suicide.
It's in his ketubah.
Yeah.
In his marriage contract, it says yes, adultery.
Yes. So, what's the question? I'm interested in about the 10 Commandments.
Okay, so in the dream, I had this statement that I said, and this is weird because it's like a dream is becoming real right now. So in the dream, I told you guys we were talking about the movie, The 10 Commandments, and then it turned to the real 10 Commandments. And I said that I had this observation that the number one reason that people are miserable is because they break the 10 Commandments. That was what happened in the dream. And that wasn't a thought that I'd had in my waking hours. So I woke up and it was like, hey, that was something that I dreamt. But then I thought about it and I thought, well, that's actually true.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That people break the 10 Commandments?
The reason people are sad is because they're breaking the 10 Commandments. So if you're murdering people, you can't feel good about yourself, or not respecting your mother and your father, or adultery. You know, I always think about like Michael Jackson died because he took too much of a drug that he was taking to go to sleep. He must have done, I mean, you watch documentaries on him, it looks like he did some stuff that would make it hard to sleep, you know?
Propofol. Yeah.
But like, you know, if you'd done some things that you shouldn't do, it might be hard to sleep and you'd have to take drugs to sleep. So one thing I always think about is I appreciate the fact that I can go to sleep at night, you know, like I haven't done things that keep me up at night, you know?
That's the big thing that people go, yeah, well, you know, I can go to sleep with a clear conscience.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
I think so.
That's a big deal. I don't know that anybody keeps, there's no perfect. But nobody keeps the 10 Commandments or anything perfectly. We're human. Everybody makes mistakes. You know, you have free will and you need to learn from your mistakes.
Right.
Paul, you're a big fan of the podcast, it sounds like.
Yeah, I am.
So I want to ask you, what were your 3 top episodes, and maybe give us some insight into what made them so good?
Okay, I think the first one that I thought, wow, this was a great interview, it would be Or Mash. And that's because I started out, I had no preconceived idea, and it was like I was listening to the first 2 minutes. I said, "Oh, let me give this a listen," and then, hey, it's the end of the show. I'm finished.
Very
You
nice.
know that.
Mhm.
So that would be one. Now, I'd had him on, and I just think he's great. Tom Dreesen.
Great,
Yeah.
great
That was,
guest.
yeah, that was very, very good.
Priceless.
Yeah.
Loved that one.
I listened back to that one because I thought there was so much I didn't catch the first time that he had a lot of
He's
wisdom.
great.
If I was to pick a third one, might be Dom Herrera.
Thank you. That's
That was a
kind.
good one.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
If you were producing you were back in the thing, it was your money, what would you tell us we need to do to improve?
Wow, that's a good question. Ah,
And if we didn't do it, you're pulling out. Make it tough on you.
golly,
What do we need to do to make this better?
uh, I mean, it's so good as it is. I love the set. I love. Hmm.
Well, there may not be an answer, and I appreciate that.
I
But
will think on it.
think on it, and if you do, you just call us.
Yeah.
You get back to us in 2 weeks and say replace Mark.
Come up with it fast because I'm leaving. Yeah. If you come up with something, because I'm always interested in, and so is Danny,
Yeah, to
in how to
improve.
improve this thing.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. It always seems like with every single episode, there's a genuine warmth that you all have. Would you all have on a guest that you didn't particularly like the comedy of just because maybe that person was a big name? You know what I mean?
You want to answer that? I know my answer, but
Yeah, I would.
yeah, you
Yeah,
would?
yeah, yeah. Although there was one guy that I suggested we have on who didn't politically see eye to eye with us, and I thought we should talk to him about it. And Danny didn't think it was a good idea. You remember?
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. It was someone who was on the other side of the Israel thing, and
But
I
not
felt
on the other side of humanity.
yeah, but I felt that I am not a good person to debate, and I would do a it wasn't because I wouldn't want to talk to someone like that, but it was because I felt like it was going to be a debate, and I'm not the right person for that job. I thought I'd do a disservice at
Right.
that point.
You did say you weren't versed enough to defend.
Yeah, I'm not versed enough. Like there are some people who can, rattle off facts and things like that. And then if it came to me, I would just be hearing him out, which I'm happy to do, but I don't think that that's a very
Right.
fair thing to do for,
I would not have on, I hear what you're saying. I
yeah.
would not want to have on people that sexually and, someone fondled children, even no matter how funny they were.
Even Bill Cosby, would you have him on?
No, couldn't do it.
I would have him on.
Couldn't do it. Couldn't do it because you're not going to get the truth.
You know what I would do though? I wouldn't want you not to be here. I would probably put some pills in your drink before the
Like
show
he did.
so that you wouldn't leave.
Yeah, I couldn't do that. Like I can't go see the Michael Jackson play on Broadway because
Right.
they don't touch on what he touched on.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get that?
I get that. I understand that.
But with
I
comedians,
would be so fascinated to interview Bill Cosby if I could get an honest interview from him. Like I would really.
you can't.
You don't think?
No,
I would want to try.
he doesn't think he did anything wrong.
I would want to try and just get into his mind a little bit about things. I would love to, and without trying to condemn him, even though obviously I don't feel that behavior is acceptable or anything like that. So I condemn it. But I would be very interested if I could to try and find a way in, an angle to talk to him about that stuff. I would. But that's one place where Mark and I differ. Like I
But
would,
you would have him on, but you wouldn't have my friend on. It's interesting.
because it wouldn't be a debate. Well, there would be no debate. I wouldn't be telling Bill Cosby like,
Bill Cosby says to you, I didn't do any of that stuff. What do you say to that? You did? You weren't there.
Well, I wouldn't. I would try to approach things in a certain way with him. I don't. You're asking me right now to come up
Yeah,
with
how
how
do you
to do
approach?
it. I don't
I'm
know.
Bill Cosby. How do you? I supposedly raped 63 women. How do you approach me?
Well, you start with one woman at a time.
Yeah. No, what do you say to me?
I would start by just talking about other things. I would try and warm up the conversation to get
Right, you don't
comfortable,
understand that, but get to
and then you'd be like, okay, so
you raped women.
there's this obviously this allegation. You wouldn't want to say you did it because you'd want to leave
He was
room for her.
convicted.
Right.
Was an allegation.
Well, you've been said to have done all these things.
He went to jail.
I would first ask him how he feels about all this that's gone down, and what he would want to have done differently, and and if he says he didn't do it, I would ask him, why do you feel this happened to you then? Why do you think all these women came out and said this? I would want to hear his take. It's like,
What could he possibly say to that question?
well, that's what I'd want to know.
Yeah. Can't be done. You know?
I would want to hear. I haven't heard his perspective on. I'd say, look, all these women say this happened. So
There's a saying:
what would possess them to
if
do
enough people call you a horse, saddle up and ride out of town.
that? Uh-huh.
That's the saying.
Okay. I'm not saying I don't. I obviously think he did do it, but I would like to hear.
Even more
What
reason not
what
to
if
have
he
him
what
on.
if he just broke down and got emotional and talked about things and revealed things about his psyche that would be very fascinating and interesting to humanity.
Hmm.
No, that would be an interesting interview. I once heard Larry King say he would interview Hitler. He would be happy to talk to anybody in history. And I thought I would agree with that. I said, yeah.
Except his first wife. He won't talk to her.
But Larry King his point was like, an interviewer is an interviewer. The thing with your thing was that it was a debate. It wasn't like we were going to interview him about himself.
No, it could be the same way as Cosby. Same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just say to him, listen, what's your reasons? Why all my friends say that this is a wrong thing that's going on.
Well, you know what? Do you still want to do it?
Let's get Cosby on first. I want to talk to him now. Now it's.
I mean, I'm open to it if it's.
What do you think,
not
Mr.
a
Leslie?
debate?
Are there people you wouldn't have on the show, sir?
Ooh, I don't think so. And I'll tell you why. It wasn't long ago. I watched the documentary about the son of Sam, and I was so fascinated that I wrote Berkowitz a letter.
David Berkowitz.
Yes, sir. And he wrote me back. And he said, I mean, obviously, I don't condone people who murder, but then I thought, like, no, this would not fit the vibe. I was joking around with my wife. 'Cause, we have like the kind of old school announcer at the beginning, and we have the entertainer playing on the piano. And I was like, this just wouldn't work with Berkowitz. Like, ladies,
Did a dog tell him to kill them?
that's what he said. Yeah. He said that, he had on his mail route, if I remember correctly.
Was his father's name Sam? Is that why he's called Son of Sam?
Don't know why.
No, I think the dog. Probably somebody's going to be calling out, fact checking this, but I think the dog was named Sam. The dog that was talking to him. He said that the dogs were talking to him.
That's the danger of talking to dogs. You don't know what they're going to tell you to do.
Yeah, my dog tells me to take him out.
Yeah.
Stands at the door and barks.
Well, that's how it always starts. They warm you up.
Yeah. Then he tells me to grab a knife.
What if you had a very fascinating conversation about comedy with Cosby? Would you find that?
I wish that would have been possible, but it isn't. I think he was the greatest stand-up that ever lived. But if Hitler was the greatest tennis player that ever lived, and he did what he did, can you interview the guy?
Wouldn't you just want to find out about some strokes?
You can't. You can't. But some things are just so huge that you can't overlook them.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they're wrong. sometimes they're wrong, but
What if you had interviewed Cosby and it came out that he was innocent? That'd be interesting. You can't rule it out completely.
you can. It's not as
I mean, it obviously doesn't seem that way, but what if he was?
then it's different. Somebody is, it is. I mean, listen, they have they DNA now. They're letting people out of prison that were in for 25 years.
Yeah.
You do.
Never in a million years would I have thought that this interview would have made this turn.
Your fault.
Yeah.
You're the interviewer.
Yeah. This is hanging on you, baby.
He's trying to destroy the show, Mark.
What? I think it's it's an interesting question.
Yeah.
And questions are interesting. Good questions are interesting on podcasts.
What if the whole show breaks up because I want Cosby and he doesn't want Cosby?
Yeah. Now, I might consider having one of the people that were on his show, what they think about it. That could be interesting.
With him there?
But he's not going to sit there and listen to that. He sat in the courtroom and listened to it. He's not going to sit and listen on a podcast. I don't know. Just some people, they put a bad taste in your mouth. You just go, hey,
You're very, very offended by the Cosby thing. I think also because it's personal, because he was a good person to you. And maybe that, that makes it a little bit another element to it.
No, it was egregious. Listen, if my father I find out I raped 25 people, I don't know I could talk to him anymore. The way it is.
What's the number?
13. That's why I draw the line. Anything more than 13, no more talking.
That's it.
Or that ping pong.
Yeah.
You raped 11 women, we still got the game. Get it on.
Sure. There's a comedian, I won't name who he is, but there's a comedian I used to be very, I was very close friends, but I was friends with him. And I think something very unfair happened to him and he was canceled and for a very unfair reason. And he became probably resentful of that fact. And anyway, long story short, all he does every day is tweets about hating the Jews. And I think about it all the time because he was such a sweet guy to me. And yet he's putting out messages on podcasts and tweets, which are designed in a way to incite violence on my own very family, my people, my friends, my family. And I often think, like, could I interview him? Like, would I want to talk to him? It's so personal to me because he was my friend.
Yeah.
And it hurts me so much because I thought so highly of him. And I still think very highly of many aspects of him. Obviously not the Jew hatred. But I think, people are multifaceted and he's got so many wonderful qualities. And so that one really bugs me because
it's the same dilemma with having my friend on. You wouldn't be able to debate this guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now this guy who you say is saying all this bad stuff, is he a well-known name?
I don't want to go into who he is any more than that.
Okay.
But suffice to say,
why don't you?
Because why don't I?
Yeah, because he's out there doing it. It's not like he told you a secret.
Right.
I hate you. He's out there publishing it, printing it.
Right.
Publishing it. You can.
I don't want to get into the mix of it though. It's. I don't want to get into the hairs of that.
Okay.
And also, other people do. So it's not a fight that's not being fought, but it's, and like I said, he was a friend of mine. I'd had him over my house. He had been on my show. I'd been on his show.
Does he know how you feel?
I don't know. I mean, I tried to reach out to him in the early stages of it, and my heart was a little broken about it, to be honest with you, because, there's a lot of people that hate Jews publicly and have an audience for it. And, Kanye is like the most famous right now, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know them. I never, like, I felt like I knew his heart and he had a good heart, like I felt like.
Only the God can see what's in a person's heart.
Yeah.
We can't.
Yeah. So that one bothers me a lot because, like I said, I respected him as a comedian and as a person, and And I think what happened to him was extremely unfair. And the fact that it resulted in, a constant barrage of Jew hatred is, you know, complicated in that way for me.
Mr. Leslie, what else you got for us, sir?
There was one question I had that I haven't gotten to yet. I've always looked at people who do stand-up comedy with a kind of sense of wonder. And that's, I mean, I've been in awe of people who are performing at bars, and I've been in awe of people that I've gone to where it's thousands of seats. But what is it like from the perspective of you guys? What's it like to be on stage doing the work of stand-up?
Go ahead, young fellow.
Me?
Hmm.
It's exhilarating. I love it. I wouldn't keep doing it if I didn't love it, because I've certainly had no great successes at it, financially speaking, that would motivate me to do it in a commercial way. I do it because I just love the art of it. I love the unpredictability of it. I love the fact that I constantly learn and grow and change and write and perfect and work on my performance, work on my delivery, the way I enunciate certain words, the place where inflections go. And I find the whole thing never gets tiring or boring because there's so much that I still can improve in. And I love making people laugh. I think it's a healthy thing to do. So that makes me feel good about what I'm doing. And it's a very satisfying art, I think. What do you think, Mark?
I agree with everything you're saying, and I just add this one other thing. It's an incredible thing to know that when I'm done working, people feel better.
Hmm.
That's it. There's no greater gift than that. Is that when I go, thank you very much, good night. People clap and they really leave a little happier than they were when they came in. That's the goal,
Yeah.
and it's a twofold gift. They're given to me, I'm giving to them, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, there's a great reciprocity about it, right?
Nothing better. Nothing better. As Jay Leno said, if I don't do a great show, I mean, it's not like I sold poison gas to Ukraine. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
nobody's getting hurt here. They may not like it.
Huh.
I also feel like it's some of the most honest work I've ever done because I know I'm doing a good job by the audience's response. Like other jobs I've done, did I really do a good job? I don't know. Maybe someone could have done this better, but I know exactly how well I did when I do comedy.
It's interesting when you say an honest job, because everything you say is a lie. Comedians, every word out of a comedian's mouth is a lie, an exaggeration, and has very little to do with the truth.
Uh-huh. Well, that's as honest as it
Yeah.
gets.
Well, everybody out there, please give
Yeah.
a listen or a view to We Think It's Funny. You can listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can watch on YouTube, follow on all the socials. It's a good time and it's much needed. Now, anything you'd like to say in closing? Any last words?
Read my book, Why Not? Lessons on Comedy, Courage, and Chutzpah, which dispels a lot about my Jewish journey, about my comedy journey, about my famous friends, Jerry Seinfeld, Paul Reiser, Jay Leno, and dispels a little bit of wisdom that I learned from people who are much deeper than I am.
And I'll reiterate that. You should get Mark's book. I love Mark's book. There's great stories. You didn't even mention the Bob Dylan stuff. But
Bob Dylan. Also, we had a first book that I wrote with Rich Scheidner called I Killed, True Stories of the Road to America's Top Comics. And if you want to be a comedian, pick up I Killed by Mark Schiff and Rich Scheidner. It's a definitive portrayal of what it's like to be on the road. There's 200 different road stories in it.
and I read that book many years before I even knew who Mark was.
It's a Bible for a lot of young comedians.
Yeah. I'll add this. We need more YouTube subscribers. We're trying to monetize our YouTube channel. That'd be one way to keep the show alive. And if people out there feel so inclined to do so, please subscribe to our YouTube. And that would be a free way to help us. And also, you can leave us 5 stars and a nice rating in the Apple Podcasts app or platform.
Perfect.
Once you've heard the show and you like it, that would help us too. And both of those are free. Nice ways to give back. And Paul, thank you so much for all your kind words and for encouraging us with what you said about our show, and for having us on repeatedly.
I'm sorry your show's going off the air, Paul.
Yeah.
No, this is it.
Paul, how
Well-
come you never tried doing stand-up?
I don't know.
If it's something that's nagging at you, then maybe you should try it.
Well, I always think they need spectators, so that's my role.
Okay.
I'm
That's a good
supposed to
one.
I'm supposed to be in the audience laughing
Good.
because I love it. I when Mark was talking about how people feel good, when I saw Mark in Boston, and I wrote about this experience, you could feel the people, and I mean, people were still laughing as they walked out onto the street. And it was like you could just, I mean, you could really, really feel it. And people were talking about, oh, I like this part, I like that part.
Hmm.
And I just thought, like, wow, these guys, in this case, Seinfeld and Schiff, I thought these guys, they have a service job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you should try one of his oil back massages
Yeah,
if you really want to feel good.
Thank you for your kind words.
Thank you
Appreciate it.
so
I'll
much.
tell Jerry you said so.
All right. I appreciate that. And gentlemen, I wish you all a wonderful, wonderful afternoon and evening.
Thank you. How
You
about the
too, Bill.
morning?
Yeah.
Doesn't
And a
want
good
that.
morning tomorrow as well.
Let me be the first to wish you a happy Easter.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You are indeed the first.
I think he inspired us to book Cosby too. That's
yeah.
not
I'm going
bad.
to call him now.
Yeah.
Bye, Paul.
Bye-bye. Until next
Bye.
time. Adios.
Now, the Paul Leslie Hour is made possible by people like you, listeners, viewers. Please go to thepaulleslie.com/support, and you'll know what to do when you're there. Thank you. Thank you, everyone who contributes. Performance of The Entertainer intro song by John Primorano. And of course, this is your announcer speaking. See you next time on the Paul Leslie Hour.